Eastern time, and I don't say Eastern Standard Time because I forget what it is, but it's Eastern time. It's the Hour of Empower, a LinkedIn live stream. The word of the day is achievement. I'm so honored to be able to split the time today with Leslie Flowers. Everybody knows Leslie. Leslie's everywhere. Monday, Mind Over Matter. Friday, Think and Grow Rich. Here all the time, and everywhere else that makes sense to be there. So, anyways, a big build up for Leslie. Chat is open and we depend on chat. Oh, we've got Renadev. He always opens the show. If there was a door prize, we'd be sending it to Renadev. Wonderful to join the session today. Elizabeth, who was here yesterday, thank you for coming. Good morning, also happy to be here. And, I picked achievement because I know Leslie has been so focused on her pursuit of the science of achievement and success. And I thought that would be a word that was more aligned. With that, I'll turn it over to Leslie. Leslie can give a little bit of whatever's going on that is important to be hearing.
Not what we were talking about beforehand.
No. Leslie got the audience in a wonderful state of mind before the show started.
Yeah.
And it's only continuing. So Leslie, and share your interest in or thoughts on achievement. So a little catch up and right into the word.
Absolutely. So yeah, for 15 years, I've been studying and focusing on achievement. What is it? What is the result of achievement? What happens if you achieve consistently? What's going on if sometimes you achieve and sometimes you don't? And how does that affect confidence? And how does that relieve anxiety? For example, if you know you're going to achieve something financially, revenue generation consistently, it eliminates the fear of poverty and that anxiety. So, really, what does it take? And then over the last 15 years, I've tested it. I am the research. Okay. So, when I say research shows, I have 500 individual cases of a process using mostly Think and Grow Rich, the stuff that's there. But I've got a big background, so I've learned a lot, right? And I've added things, and the stuff works, right? I created the laws of achievement. It's a checklist. So that's been my driving force. I love Think and Grow Rich. I didn't know what it was when I started, and I didn't really know why I was interested in it other than my intuition sent me to a website that brought all of that up. And so far as achievement goes, for me, very simply, it's completion. It's completion of something that you intentionally wanted to do. How's that for a starter?
I think that's excellent. And, when you talk about Think and Grow Rich, it actually begs the question of why is that book so essential when business people, I think in the 50s, 60s, were asked, that was always their number one book. And if you read the book, there is a lot of dated stuff. There's a lot of stuff that you almost have to bring to the present, as far as how somebody made $30, which could have been big then. But I think it's just about all of the concepts coming together.
That's exactly right. He was really, we could call Napoleon Hill. Now, this is still the number 2 bestseller of all time, and it's 100 million copies. So you could say that Napoleon Hill really was the 20th century greatest reporter on success, because he was a reporter, yet his book has the blueprint for success. And that's what my program does, is it brings you up to the current thing. Like the funny thing I think I've shared on here before was the misnomer that the reason men are bald is because they wear their hats too tight, Or in the chapter of imagination, he extrapolates on the radio as though it's the be all and end all, but the TV hadn't come out yet. So you're absolutely right. The reason it works is because he spent 20 years interviewing over and over again our most successful citizens to find out what they were doing that everybody else wasn't doing. And that was at the behest of Andrew Carnegie. And what's more, he wasn't paid to do this work, but he made millions with the connections. So it's kind of like on LinkedIn here, right? It isn't really where you think you're going to generate that income, like from a job, right? It's really from unexpected sources.
Yeah, that's excellent, because when you look at the foundation of it, it was all based on networking, right? It was based on Andrew Carnegie's introductions.
That's right.
His ability to be there talking to these people, and based on a cross section of them, he probably blended enough of the ideas to come up with a central thread that connected everybody. And I think that's what the show and shows like this can do.
Well, this is mastermind. And that's one of the principles. That's what he did. I mean, but mastermind is not new. We've been doing it since caveman days. It's when two or more people get together, they end up with a third or fourth or exponential minds. And he's also missing from 100 years ago, really, the distinction between the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. So, I mean, we could go back to achievement, and thanks for bringing that up. It's just so, Elizabeth, you should know that my trainer in 2008 at his knee was Bob Proctor. So I've been teaching it for 15 years and I haven't stopped. It has a lot of my own stuff now. I'm bringing it up to 21st century, but the concepts are solid.
I believe it. And with that, let's start bringing some of the audience up here. Mosin, who I haven't seen in a while, welcome to live. Thank you. Elizabeth is here. Love the look of the hats. We were just discussing it prior to going live. Petra says, good morning, Don and Leslie. Good to see you. It's been a little bit. Elizabeth says, Bob Proctor, yes. Comes back with, that's deep, Leslie. Lillian's here from Romania. Good morning. Oh, I knew it. Evening from Romania. Happy Saturday, everyone. Paul's here. Paul's everywhere. I might have to call you a cowgirl now, Dr. Leslie. Grateful to be here and to learn and support you all. It appears weekends will be normal here. Looks that way. Whatever normal means. Ashif sends his love. So great. Petra's into the commenting. So appreciate achievements will enrich your mental health and well-being, happiness. But watching someone else has achievement for me, it means is golden for me. And you know that whatever is your goal towards what you can say I've achieved something, as little or small, is important. Paul is your network is your net worth. Petra, great to have everybody commenting. Love to hear what your thoughts and definitions of achievement is out there in the audience. Maria's here. Petra says, but never turn achievements into a competition. And then we finish right here with a new individual. Wonderful discussion happening here, Ramet. Yeah, you know, when you look at achievement, and it's a lot easier to look at it after you've had a lot of them.
Yeah.
You know, looking back at your achievements really put things in perspective, because every one of them started with a journey, right?
With an idea.
Yeah, with an idea.
Yeah.
And then with that idea, you created a destination, hopefully.
Yep.
When you reached it, you could qualify it as an achievement.
Yeah.
And you can also look back at your own case history and understand where were the speed bumps? What did you do to innovate, to accept disappointment along the way? You know, you got to be resilient, and you got to be patient, and you got to be forgiving to yourself, because you got to get yourself ready for the next day. You know, if you dwell too much on yesterday and what happened to you, it's going to affect how you're going to respond to tomorrow. And if it is a marathon, I've done this show 365 days in a row. After a while, every little nook and cranny, but you also understand things you could have never understood if you weren't consistent, if weren't probing. And the benefit of having an interactive audience is they continue to be like a buffing wheel, to continue to reaffirm, validate, confirm, disqualify. And, if you go with the flow, you're never having a lot of resistance. And I think that's the key to achievement. I think anybody can do anything they believe they can do. The question is, do they have what it takes to do what it is to get there? And a lot of it is not yourself. Most people don't have it all, and they shouldn't, because then everything would be too equalized. You should focus on core competency and then understand where you're light. And what I see is it's all communication in these days. And whoever can communicate better, whoever can network better, whoever can build relationships is going to win the game. And I think broadcasts like that now, I've gotten the word out. We build great communities. And from my show over the last year, I can name 8-10 people that got their own shows.
Oh, yeah.
Wouldn't have happened. And from there, more shows, right?
Yeah.
They continue. So now my focus is how do you get, bringing people on the runway, creating their own shows with them, their own branded shows, so they can get a better platform. Because here's the thing. If you're in the mob or the crowd of normal LinkedIn, where you're throwing a post out that hardly anybody will see or pay attention to, and you'll get everybody who you don't want to reach out to you to either sell you something or do something else, you need to elevate. You need to get your own place with your own audience. So anyways, that's what I think achievement could be, is using these models of how you invest your time. Because when we talk about achievement, most of the time is how long is it going to take, right? Can you help me with this? Well, how long?
You've covered about 10 of the 12 laws of achievement in your concepts. And so I wouldn't even know where to begin.
No. And that's why we'll start with Victoria again.
Okay. Money.
Well, I think that's the beauty of it. You mix it up, you think what you say, and people know that.
Yeah.
And I think when you're talking to people in the now, you got to talk like you're in the now.
Mm-hmm.
Too many people are overthinking what they're saying, and it comes out that way. The topic today is of achievement, Paul says, is simply finishing what you start. My mentor says, once you cross the finish line, you can't ever uncross it. Proving that's impossible equals impossible.
That's a shameless plug.
Leave it to Leslie. Paul, ego when they've done nothing. I had to learn gratitude, reflection. Learning's a lifelong thing. And, you decide what achievement you go after. You decide when did you accomplish it, and accomplishing half in one day is an achievement, right? If you drove 1,000 miles and one day you stopped at 500, you achieved half of your driving. Most people wait until the final bell that certifies them, and then they get a small amount of appreciation, and then they're on to their next mission that might take a long time. So
this reminds me of a story speaking to that point, which I can capture right now. So I think it's whatever you intend to achieve. So it's not the stuff that you do all the time that's automatic. Real achievement is when you give yourself, an intention. I'm going to do this by this time. You could have a reason why. And then when you achieve it, the size of it doesn't matter. It's really, are you as honest with yourself as you are with your clients? Do you treat yourself the way you would your best client? Would you renege on something with your best client And would you renege on something with yourself? Oh, I'll do it later. Actually, both are equally as important because you're going to attract yourself. So, I was thinking about the first bestseller I had in 2014, and I won't say the name because that would be a shameless plug. But anyway, so I gave myself a date. I'm a master of achievement. I mean, I've got people that always achieve with my system, right? They have to be ready and willing. They have to be willing to invest in themselves. So if you're not willing to invest, you don't need an expert in achievement, right? You can figure it out for yourself. So anyway, I set the date. This is what I've been teaching people to do. This is what people do. This is what I do.
Mhm.
Yeah, but I dragged my feet. I lost some desire. I allowed myself to get distracted over a 90-day period. And I was 5 days from the release date and it wasn't finished. So that's painting yourself into a corner. That was the last time I did it. It was awful. It reminded me of studying for exams when you do all-nighters. So some people say, Donald, that you should get the client that wants the product first. Some people do it this way, then they create the product. So before they invest all the time, they want to make sure there's people out there that'll buy it. So some people will actually sell the product or the program before they've developed it. That to me, it has some value, but that's what I did, was painting myself into a corner. And then the next 7 books were not like that. I never wanted, that's like being terribly drunk your first time. You never want to go back there.
Absolutely. And to the point you bring up,
Mm,
I always like to have a working model before
mm,
I promote it.
mm,
Because how do you tell somebody this is for you? And when they say, how did it work out for you? Well, I never really tried it,
mhm,
and
mhm,
if you did try it, let me see what came of it. What were
mhm,
the numbers, or what success did you have? And if you don't have that, there's a zillion things you could have to sell. Why would you ever sell an unfinished piece? And the risk you take when you try to wing it and you try to personalize it. Well, first tell me what you need. And once I get all this information, I'll put some together. It's like, well, it makes you like a genius. You could take the stuff I just tell you I need, and all of a sudden you got a program for it where you may not even know nothing about my industry or my background.
right, right,
So
right.
it's a lot easier to say, this is what I do, this is what I get, this is what other people have used it for, this is what they get. It's a confidence level, because you really want to turn people away from risk to opportunity, right? If they think, hey, I can't lose, and you could even subsidize that by guarantees or assurances or whatever, if you're a believer that this person is more concerned than reality allows it for. Just like LinkedIn Live, some people think, wow, it's so difficult, I could never do it. But that's the benefit of the person who's providing that service,
Yeah,
because there's a higher respect for someone who is doing it, and someone who can teach them to do it in ways to get them going. So, you can get involved with people at different levels of their achievement journey, right? You can get into the seed part of it, the planting, the organizing, you can get into the supporting or the completing. But before we get back to Leslie, let's get into Maria, who says, what's wrong with competition? It keeps you on the ball. There's nothing wrong with competition, but you're going to get it. You don't have to plan for it. It'll show up when it shows up. I think what it does say, with windows of opportunities opening and closing faster, you've got to have a sense of urgency. If you see something and you want to take advantage of it, don't wait. And the more you wait, the more the waiting becomes more waiting. Volume can make time irrelevant when it comes to mastery. That's something like out of Shakespeare. that's kind of profound. Elevate, yes, love these valuable nuggets. The thing is most people, they overthink, they overweight. If they just put themselves in action, take simple steps, read simple books, talk to simple people, simple things start to come together and you start doing simple things. When people want to convolute, complicate, bring in the whole world into it, and then have a poll and everything, forget about it. Victoria says, LOL. Maria's come back with meaty competition is a much debated topic, with some arguing that competition is good for achievement outcomes. Well,
can I say a little bit of something about that? Just short.
Very short.
Very short. Okay. So competition has distinctions. Use your competition to find out what they're doing, particularly if they're effective, but collaborate with them.
Yeah, at times, but
but the point is it's not that kind of competition where I'm going to edge you out, because if Donald, if everybody was doing lives like you, yours would still be unique. Yours would still be distinct. You really wouldn't have any competition so that's what I'm saying to Maria. Yes, competition is important to know what your competition is doing. Watch them. You can even mimic them. Don't steal from them, but observe them, for goodness sake. Ideas are free. And then the other real side of it is that there is no competition. We could never serve everybody who could use our services right now, 24/7, 365, because there's so much want out there. So that's where that distinction is. And I know that wasn't short.
No, that was absolutely worth the extra time.
Okay, thank you.
And here's what I want to say to that, and I agree wholeheartedly with Leslie's, extra definition, is that there's quantitative definition and there's qualitative. Now, I agree, and that's why I don't feel competition, because anybody can do a LinkedIn live show. It took me nothing, and I'll tell you, you can do it in 30 minutes if you really want to. The key is you're never going to replicate the content of certain people. You can get people on production value. I've seen some openings and closings, looks like the 4th of July, all the exciting music, the vibe. But at the end of the day, when you create, let's say, a transcript of what just took place, what do you have that's inspiring? And if you spend more time on live streams that are dumbed down, that are mediocre, that's a bad message you're bringing in, right? Because you're blending with that. If you can go to places of higher learning, more elevated discussions, deeper interactions, that's what makes it rich. It's not, and that's the difference. If you've never done or seen people who are really inspiring, really make you think, how did this time fly by? That's really the competition. And in the end of the day, with achievement, the competition is always between you and yourself.
Oh, right. And Elizabeth said that in the chat. I happened to catch that. I just actually looked over here, but that's right. That's right. And that goes back to the intention of the thing you want to do. Do you give yourself an instruction or say to yourself, I'm going to do this today? And do you do it? Or, and how frequently do you do this? Do you keep your word with yourself like you would with your client? So I don't think we look at ourselves the same way as we look at our clients. And maybe we need to do more of that, or we could do more of that.
Yeah. I have a different history because I own my own companies. I was always a controlling partner. So I never had a boss. I never had to take direction. Whatever I wanted to do, I could do. I may not get everybody to appreciate it or agree, but it didn't matter. I had the freedom.
Mm-hmm.
When you go to clients, you kind of give the freedom up, and now you have to be responsive to them based on the relationship, right? Someone calls, you got to call them back. You promise work, you got to deliver.
Well, you do this every single day.
Yeah, but here's the thing, is what I always did, I never had clients. I had reciprocal relationships.
But we're potential clients of yours.
Possibly.
And you treat us with respect, right? You make your intention and you achieve it. Only once have I caught you going fishing.
Yeah, yeah.
So, I mean, you're really doing, if you look at us and your audience.
But the difference is paid clients versus, see, because once you get into taking a dollar from anyone, now they're entitled to their opinion about your service, right? Not your value always. You could say it's only $1. And it's like, no, you were supposed to do, blah, 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 blah. So I think the key is so many people are so interested in clients. Can they pay? Can they do? And I'm like, if this person doesn't make me better for the time with them, doesn't make me excited for the time with them, I'm not going to engage. And I think that's where people challenge themselves if they really aim too low.
That's true. Yeah. Let's go back to achievement. Yeah. I want to drop a bomb out here. So, everybody talks a lot about confidence. We've even talked about confidence here, right? So the byproduct of achievement, if you can make it consistent, is the growth of confidence. So confidence isn't something, and it's the same thing with belief in yourself. And I wanted to bring this up before. When you begin on a project that you've never done before, you don't believe you can do it. You can visualize it and you can believe that anything is possible, but you don't have perfect faith in the process yet until you begin to move toward the end that you want and you start to see the everyday miracles, which is people and opportunities that show up that appear to be coincidences, but they're really not. So faith, the kind of belief, absolute firm belief, actually occurs at the completion of achievement. At that point, you have complete faith that you can do something you've never done before. You affected other people, right? And now, not only did you complete it, something you didn't know, but you also did a darn good job at it. This is how confidence is built. So if you don't build it with consistency, then it's like going to the gym every 2 weeks to work on your calf muscles. Yeah, you're going to exercise them, but they're not going to grow. So that's one of the discoveries, one of the byproducts that I discovered over this last 15 years as I work primarily with women and a few smart men, is to get them to build confidence in doing business in 21st century, right in the 21st century. And we're like fish out of water, really. We've only been in business bona fide, for about 4 decades. And so before that, we had this whole host of behaviors that managed a household. And that's managing a business in its way. But those behaviors and the mindset is different than in business, which is more cut and dry. And so we had to come in to 21st century business, and we weren't earning what we should. And we couldn't go toe to toe with men. And they aren't listening to us or weren't listening to us. And that's natural. So then you have new behaviors to learn. And that's where, as you set and achieve a goal, however small or large, and you do it, you keep the promise to yourself, that begins to build that muscle of confidence, right? And then you do it again and it grows further, and you do it again. And now you have perfect faith. And any ego or any reaction that says, oh, I can't do it, and I failed before, and someone else is better at it, it's now outweighed by the proof that you created faith in yourself because you did it. So keep doing it, right? You do it, and then you do it again. And to Donald's point, time and money are very important. I was the free workshop junkie for several years before I ran into Proctor and made a big investment. Oh, I took this class and that class. Oh, I just love learning a little bit of quantum physics, leadership, all of this. I was always looking for the free thing. Oh, no, I wasn't going to invest any money. No, it's all out there free. But then as I got older, I realized that we never get time back. And I found that it was smarter for me to find an expert who has a process that has the results, and it makes more sense to invest money, revenue to save time, but to be sure that you do the due diligence. So at some point, I guess it was around in 2007 when I got that realization, right? So time doesn't tolerate hesitation. So how can I get to my achievement expediently, right? And remember that whatever amount of money you invest, in most cases, your result will exceed or match your investment, because once you work with an expert and you use a proven process, yes, you're going to invest. You're investing in them, right? But then the result almost always brings back that money. At least that's been my experience, that you will exceed or at least match the investment. So at what point does each person, and this is a good question, probably the audience, we have some people that are still doing the free thing. Nothing wrong with that. I did it for years. You got some people that are investing. Right now, the question is are you investing? Because if you're not investing, you're going to attract people that don't want to invest. So if you want money, you start investing in experts so that you are a vibrational match to the people who also invest in experts. And everybody has to decide for themselves when they do that. Am I willing to fritter away another year, another 2 years to go around here and get this and this and this, and I know what I want? Or are you willing to bite the bullet, step out on faith, find an expert who has a process, and get the job done?
Okay, that's pretty comprehensive. I think, what I see some distinction, and I need to get right into the audience because I know we're piling up, is that you could spend a lot of time helping people who can't help themselves or haven't been able to help themselves. You could try to fix people and situations, but when you find people that already are wise to understand there's a relationship between time and money, and sometimes there isn't a relationship where you could spend all the time in the world, and if you don't know what you're doing, you'll be spending all the time in the world forever.
Not yet. That's right. They aren't ready yet. So move on until they're ready. They'll find you when they're ready.
Well, and that's why I'm saying there's a whole population that already has invested, already knows,
yes.
And they're easier because you're not taking them from backwards to forwards. You're taking them from forwards to faster, right?
So absolutely.
Let's go into Victoria says, I think it's interesting because I don't always think of what my goals are, achievements, but only what I want to learn and grow life moments to get to the next phase of where I want to be in life. Well, everything is learning, and you're better off learning by doing than learning about thinking about doing. And then you feel bad when you don't do it because it's like, why? And then you got another reason, and all of a sudden you're into this conflict where I would say competition is myself, my ego, and everybody's competition is what they want to make, but I don't care because, like Leslie says, it's a huge playing field, right? If all you have is what the other person has, which is 1, 2, 3, and that's going to create scarcity in your life. Why are you looking at them when you should look at a better, greener pasture or create your own audience? Everybody wants the big dream, doesn't want to pay the price. Maria, not necessarily because it would endanger the communication. I've always achieved everything I went after, honestly. And I can tell you a lot of things weren't worth it when I got it, but I got it. I always said, if I'm going to buy a ticket to the show, I'm staying for the ending, right? However it comes out.
I give myself permission once I've paid for the ticket that if I no longer am enjoying it, to get up and walk out.
Yeah, but here's
in
another.
advance.
Well, for sure. And the other thing is, if I pay for a ticket, I'm going to have more commitment to the achievement of that ticket. When it's free, play gin rummy for matchsticks, see how exciting it gets. Put a penny or two in, and all of a sudden people are looking at their hand, they're thinking, they're wondering. You make an investment in yourself, get yourself the dividend, right? If you put money in GM, and you put it in a drawer, what is that going to do for you, except one day you open it, maybe it's bigger or less. When you invest in yourself, that benefit comes with you. And the more you pay for things, the more people you pay for, the more experience you have in doing it.
Mm-hmm.
You can believe it or not, I was talking to a gentleman this week that he actually has clients paying him $1 million a year. And they're waiting in line. Okay, so this is honestly, and he's a famous person. I won't mention his name, but then I had another person who's got programs. He sold 20 packages at 120,000 a year already, and it's a 12-month program. So there are people, relatively speaking, that would pay $1 million if it could mean 50 or 100 million.
It's all relative. It's relative.
Someone deals with the super wealthy, right? Someone deals with every level. Where do you play and how do you play? Because people say, well, maybe I'm charging too much. Maybe the people you're marketing to can't afford anything. And now you're letting someone with no money create your lack of financial confidence. And why don't you move up? You know why? Because most people have an engineered relationship building beyond wherever they're at, right? I've known people that I've taken in places and they think they don't belong. This is too fancy. This is not me. People are looking at me. People, I'm like, where did this come from? It's a restaurant.
But that's fear.
I understand, but that's what people have to get over.
They need to manage their fear, because fear has a valuable point. It's opposite, which is faith. If you've never had any fear, you've never had either. So fear has a place when you set a goal that you'd like to achieve, as an example, and you've not done it before. Okay, because the purpose of a goal is to motivate you to the end. So not knowing is one of the elements. But when you try to do something big or attempt to do something big that you've never done before, you better have a little fear. That is natural and protection. And if you don't have it, your goal isn't big enough. So one of the elements is that you should be a little afraid. But when you feel that fear, to your point, Donald, what you do is manage it. You say to yourself, which is called a reframe, basically you shift your mind to go back to the other side, which is faith. Why am I doing it? What difference will it make for people, right? Why is this a good thing? Why am I in love with it? Who's going to benefit? So when you hear the fear, it's a green light that says, okay, you've got a good goal. Now get the hell back over in faith, because you can only be in one place at a time. So this is managing your fear.
Yeah. And again, it's all relative to where are you in the day, right? I mean, I look at everything day to day, sometimes moment to moment.
See you in 23 hours.
For sure. And I love doing it because it's integrated. It's already bolted in. Like I said, I took a day off. I could take any day off, right? If I choose to. Mm-hmm. But I can't see trading a screen I'm projecting on to getting in front of a screen that's projecting on me. Right.
So what's another achievement that you would like? Because you have been a great example and leader of achievement, saying you're going to do something and not only doing it once, but doing it every day. And it isn't as simple as jumping on to this live.
This is actually the best part of what I do.
So what's your next? So you got to have another
You
achievement.
bring out a lot of good ideas in me, and that's why I keep having you back.
Oh, okay.
I think that's a great question. How many people would do something? I mean, this is 3 years straight of posting every day. So that's 1,000 days, never missing a post.
And that's what Napoleon Hill did for 20 years.
Yeah. And I read his book, and doing a year of this, right? And not monetizing it, not charging for it. And you know what that is? If you look at any great companies, let's say Ford Motor, they spend 5-6 years bringing next year's model out, and they won't bring it out until it's tested, until it's safe, right? I'm the same way. I would rather spend the time, get it right, knowing that anybody else who wants to get to this level is going to have to take that same journey of 365 days, right? I didn't want to leave anything out to say, if I would have just done that instead of taken that or done that. But here's the thing, is when you know and you feel the value and it gets better, and you decide, hey, we're still not going to take it out to the market. We're going to improve it. People make fine whiskey or wine. They have to put it in barrels for 6 years, 20 years, whatever it is, in order for it to gain that richness. But you know what? It lasts forever. And I think when you invest in yourself, and not everybody can afford to take a year, work every day, and not even think about monetizing it until it's ready. And that's where people compromise. They say, we can't afford to keep something in a barrel for 20. We'll do it for 4. And I think at that point, when you bring people in and they see what you did to formulate it, what was the ingredients here, they're more confident, say, hey, can I be part of your program? Because here's the other thing that people forget. They look at what the program is, what the program benefits could be, and maybe their role, but they don't understand the access to the person. The time with that person is superior to the tangible takeaways, to the confidence building, future relationship building, co-promotional building. You attach to somebody, open up your trunk and let them fill it up for you.
Donald, so let me just say,
So what did I achieve? So to your question, what would I like to achieve? I'll compare it to what I did achieve. I came home one night from work. I had retail stores all over the country. I started with nothing, a Buick, and I got 10 grand. I started a business with my wife, and it became huge. And so one night I came home, and my son, who was about 11, eBay just started. And I didn't even know what it was. It was like when you had to go to AOL to get a disc to get some internet access. And the ticker was a clock that would wind in front of you forever. So anyways, I said, what are you doing? He says, well, I'm buying stuff. And he was like 11. How do you do that? He said, well, I got T-shirts and stuff. So anyways, he explained it. And I said, hey, here's how much does it cost to sell something? He says $2 a listing. I said, well, hey, let's take $4 out and I'll put up the money. You list anything. I had a newspaper ad on the thing. And I thought, hey, for $4, we'll have a bonding experience. I don't know how to ship it, how we get the money. I thought, for $4. And we put 2 drills on. The first drill didn't sell. The second drill sold, and we made $5.
Whoa.
I couldn't believe that could happen. So I said, hey, Jonathan, put 5 items on. And before you know it, 2 weeks later, we got 20 items and we're getting orders. And then I said, okay, he said, no, I quit.
Too much work for too little money, probably.
So I said, well, here's $20. And I called a sister down and she helped me for like 3 weeks and then she quit. So I gave her $20. And I found a guy in the warehouse, and he kind of knew computers. And I said to him, hey, can you list this? And he said, I got a brother who's a programmer. But anyways, he became the internet manager from $4 on eBay, we were eBay's largest tool seller that year.
Wow.
The next year, we were Amazon's largest tool seller. And the third year, we were the 50 top website in the country. Now that's $4. But I understood the value of something in the future. And when I look at LinkedIn Live, I see the same opportunity. So ultimately, I became a big marketplace player, like I said, with Amazon. And I was listing 700,000 items a day.
What?
Yeah. And just keeping track of prices and stock levels, because you had to operate at 99.5% accuracy. So when I saw LinkedIn Live, because the problem with that, I'd have guys going to trade shows every place in the country every week, picking up vendors, right? Is you do so good, and then Amazon or Walmart would see how good you're doing, and they'd get the stuff. And then the orders would go to nothing, and I did all the legwork. So I saw LinkedIn. I said, how do you commoditize people? You can't. They're not products. But you can aggregate people, organize people.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I saw the value. But then when I saw LinkedIn Live, no one's here. And now you have 24 times the application. So without getting technical, my goal is to get as many people on LinkedIn Live
Mm-hmm.
and do it through the process I'm using every day.
Mm-hmm.
To say, do exactly what I do, you should be getting exactly what I get.
Mm-hmm.
Again, based on your value. So anyways, hope we didn't get into too much LinkedIn Live, how to build an empire. Danny Worm says, for me, it's not competition. Competition needs to be beaten by hook or by crook. What we really have is a rival. Rivals force us to do better, and then we force them to do better. Iron sharpens iron. Competition can be based in hatred, rivalry. You know what I learned? And to Leslie's point, where I made out, because you ask somebody who has no money to start a business, is always bootstrapping, is always got their whole life signed up, because when you have no money, you got to sign personally, right? You put your house up, you put everything up, and if it don't work out, there's a lot of issues. Is I joined all the competition. I found the first thing I did, people would go to trade shows and buy stuff. I would go right to the publications who covered the industry. And I would get to know the publishers, the editors. And before you know it, I was at every party they ever had. Because every big trade show, someone sponsors these big events, and you got to know somebody or they want to know you. I got in with these people so well, I was starting to get invited to the most prestigious groups that would meet every year in wonderful places with heads of all these companies, chairmans, right? And I was in my 30s, and people would come up to me and say, hey, don't take this the wrong way. I know why I'm here. How are you here? I had 7 little stores in Denver, and they had empires. And I said, here's the deal. Thanks for asking. They love how conversational I am. I keep things moving around here. And I'm the only guy you can tell anything to, and he can't hurt you. I'm too small, right?
May I share something?
Oh, for a sec. Okay.
Well, I'll leave Danny's up here because we covered this before, but then I see that Gabriel came in. It's not about competition. It's about collaboration. So I would offer again that use your competition. Danny, if you and I did exactly the same thing, just say we were business coaches. If we started offering our services only 50 miles away, up to 50 miles away, we live near each other, and we offered our services, we could never serve the people that are looking for it. Competition is to get ideas, and then the other side is collaboration. Let me tell you a brief story. Mm-hmm. When I first became a coach, 15 or maybe it was 15 years ago. Well, I was actually a coach 20 years ago, but I was at a networking event and I was kind of new. I had just come back from becoming a consultant and a coach with Bob Proctor and all that. I was excited. And I met a guy that lived about a half hour away. And he was a coach too. And I said, "Oh, how interesting. Why don't you and I collaborate and do something?" He looked at me. He said, "You're my competition." This is a complete signal that there's missing information, because what I've learned through Mastermind is that if he and I were to get together and we offered joint work together and we shared clients, everybody wouldn't resonate with me. I'd refer him. Everybody wouldn't resonate with him. So there's more distinction in competition and collaboration. The heart-centered servant is a collaborator. They don't see that we have to take over the market. The person who doesn't see this yet may be more concerned about revenue generation, which is the expression of the fear of poverty. I got to get all the dollars. There are not enough for me and you, so I'm going to elbow my way and get that. That, according to universal law, is counterintuitive. The fact is, being heart-centered and collaborating with people and offering. I mean, when we do these LinkedIn Lives, Donald doesn't do them alone. In fact, it's better with three because I run out of things and he runs on.
Well, anyways, not to interrupt, but let's.
Oh,
I got
fine.
so many comments.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Achievements.
Always.
Yes, Leslie, I agree with you. That's good. Elizabeth, if we say it's competition, it becomes competition. You know what?
100%. 100%.
When Leslie was a grandpa, will always be OG of LinkedIn Live. I'm just getting started. You haven't seen this isn't even scratching the scratch when I get rolling. Yes, that's true, Leslie Flowers.
Thank you.
Elizabeth, all this confirmation we should compete with ourselves. That's friendly competition.
Yeah.
Is it just me giving another Jesse vibes?
Who's Jesse? Jesse Owens, the runner, the Olympic runner? Jesse who?
I don't know.
I don't either.
Pepper says a collaboration can always happen if adults are sitting at the table. At the end of the day, people always be in their own lane doing their own unique thing. Petra has a lot going, but competition with teamwork, with project will fail.
No, it doesn't have to. It doesn't have to fail.
Keep going. It's important to have your own niche to build your authority. Never copy your competition. Rather stand out and make your own space, your own audience. Here's Maria that says everyone has their special sauce. So true. Paul, Omar's here. Thank you for being here, Omar. Are you going to the beach, Leslie? Well, I don't know. Don't answer that. Fishing or fishing. We're moving.
You're taking Kevin's spot.
Yeah, Rita. Rita's here. Great to see you, Rita. Thanks. That topic, those hats. Rita is the owner of many hats also. Believe comes before achieve. Maria comes back with no one can have or do what someone else does. They can copy and be a knockoff, but people are not clueless. They will see through the BS. I've got a great story I'll share with you once I come through with this. Maria, exactly. I had two people stealing my ideas, and that was, it's okay. Others saw it and sometimes told me that. I said they can grow their resume with mine, but they didn't have my right. You know, I got so many stories. Gabriel's here. I haven't seen you in a long time, Gabriel. Thank you for being here. He comes back. It's not about competition. It's about collaboration. Danny says, I do what I do to create places where people belong. If others are doing that too, fantastic. Do it. We need more. I don't have competition. I have rivals. And, you know, I think there's so many elements here. I'll give you a quick story. I met my partner, who I always talk about, you know, who turned out to be a billionaire. And we were partners for 12 years. And he started with nothing, a lumberyard store. That's all he had. And he didn't know anything about the lumberyard business. His uncle had a heart attack and he had to come in to help out. And it was Detroit. And in the 50s, Detroit was the fastest growing city in the world. And they had lumberyards probably on every other corner, little family places.
Mm-hmm.
He sent out an invitation to every one of them, offering to give them a tour of his place if he could take a tour of their place. Every one of them invited him to their place. No one invited themselves to his place. And every lumberyard, he would start taking notes. He was a prodigious note taker. What he liked about this one, what he liked about that one. And before you know it, he had 100 different views of the lumberyards, the competition, the people, and no one thought enough about him or wanted to take the time. And he would welcome them with open arms to show them the same thing. With all that information, he ended up taking over the lumberyard business in Detroit, because first generation would build it, second generation would make it huge, and the third generation would sell it or fritter it away. And he was always there with cash buying them up. And the point is, being competition is in your mind. You know, when I see it, I've done things with smaller players that allowed them access that they appreciated. It wasn't just a big player you're going against. And one thing I did in my tool stores, and I made it a point, and it turned out to be great for us, is anybody would come in and we didn't have it, we would find it for them.
Thank you.
Right? So here's what I do. I call up Home Depot. Hey, this is Don, owner of Tool King. Got a customer here, wants this. I don't have it. Do you have it? Great. Customer's name is Bob. Can you put his name on it? Hey, Bob, what's your name? Hey, Jim. Bob, see Jim. He's holding it for you. And eventually, you know, first of all, the customer was the only thing that should have mattered, right? Is you know, they came to me, couldn't help them. Someone would say, well, you don't got the stuff I need, but I found it for you. What I did do eventually is I got over to Jim at Home Depot, and I say, how many customers did we send you this week? Oh, 7, 8. I said, how many customers are you sending us? And he says, well, I didn't know how to do it. I said, well, that's why I'm here. Here's a bunch of business cards. If people need something you don't have, you know, I'd appreciate if you'd return the favor. And they always did. So a good service to a customer became a good benefit to the company for all parties. And that's how you create win-win-win situations. And if you look at one last point, NASCAR or any auto racing, there's always people drafting off of the person in front.
That's right. That's
right.
right.
The lead car, if you look at birds, how they fly, there's a lead duck or whatever it is, goose, and cuts, and then the back one comes to the front and they keep rotating. So if you can be in second and draft, and here's the thing about competition, as long as it's not absolute, like a boxing match is absolute, there's going to be a winner, a loser, maybe a draw.
Mm-hmm.
But if you come in second to someone who's so good, you're still in a great position. You didn't come in, you know, you're a big winner, maybe not the winner, but that's a great place to be. So, you know, if someone's going to beat me, let them do it with integrity. Let them build it with hard work, and I'll tip my hat to them, and then I'll copy everything I just saw and come back with a better version. So that's when competition is friendly. You know, you see some of the people playing the hardest sports and they're going after each other. And at the end of the game, they're hugging each other, talking to each other, right? Because they didn't let something affect their personal feelings. You know, you're on the field, you play hard, you're off the field, you got to be a nice person. So anyways, we're at 58 minutes. We had so many great comments, so much wonderful interaction. And I think it always challenges me, and I know you, Leslie, to dig a little deeper in our mind, a little deeper in our experiences and our heart, to be able to share these things, because some things are a feeling and not a thought, right? Some things are, hey, I'm going to do it because I just feel like it, right? If I added it all up, and I've had people, no kidding, do deals with me who told me, I've been told this is the worst thing I could ever do. My partner, actually, when we first got started, I waited a week for his answer. I stayed at my mother's house because she lived in Detroit. And every day I'd come back for an answer, and every day someone would say, "Don't come back yet. He's not ready. You don't want to talk to him today." I had some insiders. And finally I said, "So what's the verdict, Fred?" He said, "I talked to my CFO, I talked to my VP of finance. They said, Fred, this is an awful deal. Don't do it." You know? And I said, "Fred, what are you going to do?" He said, "We're doing it because I'm going to show them this old man knows more than they do." and you're a survivor.
And that's not listening. It's not taking what other people's values, standards, and ideals are. Like when someone says to me, "You should do this," I immediately back off because, I'm saying to myself, okay, well, I have my own values, standards, and ideals, and you're asking me to throw mine out the window and go with yours. So instead, I will say, consider. And this whole conversation today is not about me being right or Donald being right or me being wrong, right? The idea based on what Donald shared about the lumber, you're literally observing and improving, right? And they don't have to be your competition. You can be each other's resource. But I would say that listen for and maybe comment any new concept that was counterintuitive for you, like when you got here, well, you just didn't really agree with it, but you've taken at least one thing from this conversation that you're going to consider, okay, that you're going to consider and think about, because the person with the landscape or the lumber yard, rather than only having himself and his ideas, he observed all the other people and opened the door to them. Now he has, this is using synthetic imagination. The more ideas you've done or you observe, when you get a new idea, synthetic imagination is drawing on the things you've done and you've seen and. So it's a very natural process to observe, and doing it on purpose is really good. So this isn't about me being right, you being wrong. It's about expanding your resources and thinking about stuff maybe you hadn't thought about before. Maybe you have.
Well, I think that's the key, is always reviewing, reflecting, and knowing that you can make adjustments. And when you do find out you're on the wrong path, stop going forward, then revise it. You don't have to complete something when you just learned something that's now changing the equation. And my comment to my partner was, "And why are you doing this?" And he said, "I invest in people, not numbers."
There you go.
And they're numbers guys and they're good, but I can read people. And he says, "You're a survivor, and I know you'll always make whatever it takes to make it happen." And it reminded me, because I did listen to Think and Grow Rich. And the reason, and what he did, he says, "But I'm going to put up all the money and you're going to take a 60% pay cut, because you're going to put in sweat equity." And what came to me is, hey, this is my Andrew Carnegie, because Napoleon Hill heard, here's the richest guy in the world who's going to give me this great opportunity for his no money. And when he reached in his pocket, he felt the change just necessary to get the train back. And the question he asked is, what would you have said when the richest man in the world asked you to have this wonderful opportunity to build the best book on how to be successful for nothing for 3 or 5 years? And he said,
it was actually 20.
And he came back and says, "If the richest man in the world believes I'm capable and is willing to work with me," he came back with gratitude, right? And I think that's what Andrew Carnegie, just like Fred, was looking for. Because I always knew deep in my heart, and Fred always did right, that if he needed to, he would take care of me. But I would have to do everything I could do in order to justify that.
Mhm.
right? And being tough on you is things that sometimes you need. You need someone not to tell you what to do, but to discipline you in how you do it and how you do it with them. And 12 years with him, I learned everything he learned, right? And how could I have got a mentor like that, a financial partner?
Mhm.
And those are the things you have to understand because most people have never had that opportunity, but know it exists. Know there's people out there who will like you for reasons you don't even understand that you project and invest in you and allow them. Too many people, I can do it myself. I don't need any help. I mean,
Absolutely. Yeah. You can until you realize and you wake up, right? You will one day. Okay. I promise you. Everybody does. You just don't know when. So when you say, now, wait a minute, there's got to be a better way than this, right? I've been investing money and I'm not getting anywhere, right? But and I have this a lot of times where people want to come and work with me and I don't have the money. I tell them, you don't need me. You have to want me.
mhm. Well, and that's
And
the thing is people sell themselves, uh, for their time in relationship to money, and it's not that satisfying. So anyways, we can talk on and on. We're a little bit over. It's not the
yeah,
weekday, so I don't mind as much. I want to thank everybody for being here. Tomorrow's going to be just an unbelievable session with Sarah Dawkins. She's been with us for about 9 months on Sundays.
oh,
Then
good.
is Gretchen Skelka, who's been with us for about 9 months on, no, Sarah's Sunday, Gretchen's Monday, Beverly's Tuesday. Wednesday, we have a new individual. I think everybody should uh, be here.
Should,
Oh, yeah.
should.
Yeah.
You're inviting them to consider coming on Wednesday.
As the audience.
That's
Uh,
right.
yeah. So it's open seating. His name is Matthew Rolnick. I think he's unbelievable. He's into some cool podcasting, really big media person. So new person, I think it's going to be exciting. Got some more people I've been talking to. So it only gets better, and it only gets better because of all of you also. So thank you very much. Thank you for joining myself and Leslie on a exciting journey towards achievement. Take care.